So we did the water sampling for it. So yeah, so what we did was we did followed the state protocol. We collected 250 milliliters from each outlet, which is called the first draw. So basically it's the first slug of water, if you will, that comes out of an outlet. That water has been sitting in the outlet per the state regulation for 8 to 48 hours. 48 would simulate a weekend. So we collected that first draw sample, and then that went off to the laboratory. And we did get 9 elevations, as Heather mentioned before. I do want to say we've done sampling for, I don't know the exact number, but it's probably 24 districts, maybe 20 districts throughout the state. And I would say almost all of them had some sort of elevation. The average we were getting was a little less than 10% of the outlets. You folks were right around, I think, 4.2, 4.6% of the outlets came back elevated. And what we found here for the majority of them was what we're finding most places, in the 20, 30 range. But in yours, you had a 444. In others, we had some other outliers as well. One district we had a 6,000. And it's just water sampling is a little different than some of the other type of lead testing that is done. The majority of lead testing that is done and had been done prior to this law was lead in paint, lead in dust, and lead in soil. Those are by far the biggest culprits for lead poisoning in children. There are much higher concentrations of lead in paint than there are in water. To give you an idea, if you were to take a piece of paint and have it analyzed to see if it's considered lead-based paint, whether you need to do abatement or something along those lines, that limit is 5,000 parts per million. So anything below 5,000 parts per million is not considered lead-based paint, therefore would not need to be abated. Understand that a part per million is 1,000. There are 1,000 parts per billion in 1 part per million. Okay, so in that regard, if you took a piece of paint that was just considered lead paint and put it in water and had it analyzed, it would be 5 million parts per billion. Okay, so, and those are historically the largest sources.
We don't have anything set up. We put out calls to a large number of places, including local urgent care, Department of Health, reached out to Newark because they went through this a year ago. Of course, LabCorp, Quest Diagnostics, etc., and we're still putting information together. So I don't have specific test dates or anything.
Talk straight a little bit.
So good morning. My name is Elizabeth Baker. I'm an elected member of the Board of Education, and since January 2016, I've been president of the Board of Education. So I just, I think as a parent in schools, and including affected schools, I can anticipate, and I think the board has been anticipating as an administration, that many of the questions that members of the community have, and certainly understanding the parent anxieties that are out there, was a health and safety issue several years ago in the district that spurred my higher level of engagement and activism within the school district. And so health and safety is a priority to the board and to the administration. I just want to give some background as to testing, because this was a question that the board began asking immediately upon receiving the information last weekend that we had the positive results. And what can and should the district do to facilitate testing? And so it's my understanding, and based on reports from Mr. Roth, that right now we don't have clear authorization in the state guidelines to pay for testing. And these both been soliciting information and proposals from potential lab providers, and scripts have to be issued, doctors' prescriptions have to be issued before testing can be performed. In some towns, the testing where this has happened, testing has been performed by the local departments of health, which I understand is the case in Newark, not by the Board of Education. Our towns have been working with us, and Mr. Rowe and Mr. Festa have been working really night and day with us since Monday morning, and are working with us to develop recommendations for testing. All of our pediatricians have been receiving calls, and I believe their recommendation to a parent is that if you have a concern, if you believe your child's been exposed to one of these fountains, come in, we will arrange for testing. We do have clearly an understanding that medical care is not easily accessible for some families in our district, and so the question that the board is asking in a dialogue with the administration is, if a family has a barrier to obtaining timely or affordable testing, what can the district do to facilitate that, either by providing it, or through a lab provider, or by working with a community-based health provider for low-cost, no-cost testing. The other issue, as a parent, that I think this reminds us all, is just because we've moved to suburbia doesn't mean we don't have exposures to lead and other toxins in our community. And lead is not only a contaminant potentially in our water supply, but it's in many of our homes. It's in the soil. And what I've learned this year is that there's a potential for lead exposure in any plumbing system that was constructed more than 25 years ago, which would, categorize most facilities that most of our children have contact with, as well as adults. So the reason, for very good reasons, after Flint and other situations across the country, the state legislature and the Department of Education adopted new lead testing standards, and that's to make sure that schools, which are a primary, facility for children, are engaging in rigorous testing. We had voluntarily undertook testing last year before this requirement was in place, and are now conducting testing on a regular basis in compliance with the regulations. Mr. Roth has also briefed the board that not all fountains are old, and that there are newer fountains in place that have been replaced in the course of routine maintenance that don't have these issues that some of the other fountains might, because they were constructed or installed when lead was still a permissible substance to be used I believe it's for soldering, is my understanding, in plumbing systems. So clearly the next step, in addition to ensuring that every family that wants testing has access to testing and any follow-up care that they want for their child, including care that would help them look as to other sources of lead contamination in their child's environment. The board will be working with the administration to identify, to come up with a plan to look at all fountains and water sources and be ahead of it. And to have this incorporated both into maintenance operation plans, which there are for every school every year, but also capital improvement plans. And we have, as you all know, this has been an elementary school discussion that's been taking place now for several months, as well as the discussion involving other schools. We have aging facilities, and we have aging overcrowded facilities. So we now know that we are going to have to do major capital improvements and expansions to ensure that our schools have the capacity for a growing enrollment. As part of any reconstruction and bonding initiative, we will also be looking at all health and safety issues, right? We're looking at school security as part of those construction plans. We'll be looking at water supply, fountains, and other key health and safety issues.
And I'm very pleased that the Board of Education is being so proactive on this, and that they're, of course, fixing the problem water fixtures, and also working to develop a way for any parent who wants to have their children tested. Because I know if I was my child, I'd want to know. And so thank you for that, and thank you for being so proactive on that. I've been working with Mr. Roth at what we thought would be an easy thing, finding a lab to test children, just turned out to have a lot more complications than we ever imagined. So we're going to work on it until we find a good workable plan so that any parent who doesn't already have a physician they can work with can be tested. And we're hoping to have that in the next couple of weeks. We'll roll it out and we'll make it so it's convenient and workable for all parents to have their children tested. We don't want to leave anyone out.